everyone, and welcome along to Off the Court, your regular guide to all things netball. And when I mean all things, I mean all corner of the netball court is covered this week. We're in New Zealand, we're in Australia, and we're also in Tamsin Greenway's front room. Hiya, Tamsin.
Good morning.
I should have given you a big build-up then, because we've not got one, not two, but three great coaches on the show this week, including you. And I know you've got all eyes on Scotland, but there's a bit of news out of the Super League this week. It's that period, isn't it, where the players are deciding where they go, contracts are up.
Yeah, I know we've been watching the Sun Cup and watching ANZ, and we've been all sort of very sad about our English Super League. However, behind the scenes, do not fear, loads of work is going on. The players are in contracting period at the moment, so I believe that the contracting for their own clubs ends this week, and then teams can go out to other players. So I think you're starting to see the announcement. We've seen Katie Hughes retire from Surrey Storm, 10 years of service there. I worked with her as a 17-year-old. Hannah Knight's obviously retiring from Wasps, and Catherine Turner, congratulations on announcing her pregnancy at Thunder. So I think what you'll see now are teams starting to drip feed those bits of information about players not returning to kind of open the way for players that are returning. So I'm hoping it'll all be wrapped up quite quickly and we can get some momentum and some chat about who's moving, who's staying, what it looks like. So they're no pressure teams, but start updating us on social, please, as soon as you get those names on the dotted line. Thank you.
Yeah, if you could do it sooner rather than later, because Tamsin wants to know where she's playing next season, don't you already? Lisa Alexander is coming up in a bit, the former Australian coach. We'll talk to her about all things Suncorp. I'm sure the super shop will pop up. But we'll start with the news that's happened over the past couple of days. An increase in COVID cases in New Zealand means their final round of the regular season was cancelled. All teams end up with a draw as a result of that. We already knew who was going to make that final, so it doesn't really affect those final places. Central Pulse will take on Mainland Tactics on the 23rd of August for that final two. Let's get some reaction to that then. Let's bring in number 2 to Noeline Tura. She's very much number 1 to us, alongside her co-coach at New Zealand. Debbie Fuller joins us. Hi, Debs.
Hi, it's great to be here.
It's lovely to have you with us, but I know things have just got a little bit difficult again in New Zealand. What's the situation like there?
I think the situation's tough for Aucklanders, which is a big part of our economy and population in the North Island. But what's happened is that in regards to the ANZ, the round 9 games have all been declared a draw, as you said. So we are just looking at assembling teams next week so that they can train, so that they can prepare themselves for the final games, which are all being played in Invercargill on the 24th of August.
I guess because we already knew, didn't we, that the Pulse Tactics was going to be the grand final, that was already cemented and in place. It was perhaps seemed like quite a sensible, fairly easy decision to make this all a draw because everything had sorted out already. But for the players and the teams, how they've gone through this period, have you been impressed with just the togetherness, the willingness to adapt over this real short time frame?
We were really impressed with their tenacity, their attention to detail, their willingness to go above and beyond in that moment to make the games happen. The coaches and all the clubs just got behind the teams and said, actually, at the end of the day, what we want to play. We want to play quality netball, and we could really deliver the quality netball that we wanted to. And over time, we've seen progression in people's skill sets, and as coaches, as national coaches, we're really pleased because some of the games have been really tight, because you learn a lot about players in those heated moments when the games are goal for goal, they're won or lost by 1 or 2 goals. That gives you a genuine, authentic competition that you can draw a lot from. So I'm part of the New Zealand selection panel as well, and we are naming a squad in a couple of weeks for the Silver Ferns and the development squad, and those decisions are going to be so tough because of the competitiveness of this playing group.
However, I say good luck because you are dripping in. I'm dripping in sweat. You're dripping in talent. Tamsin, you've been bouncing around about just the quality that you've seen over the past few weeks.
I think one of the things we've picked up is how much young talent you've managed to get out on the court, and how impressive they've been. Now, I know it's difficult for you as a selector to name names because I'm sure they'll be on your sort of list as we're coming up. But just talk to me about how those players have transitioned, because one of the big things we talk about here is would we have squads of 12 that we could just whack those youngsters on and they can perform at Super League level? I'm not sure we're quite at that level yet. So just talk to me about how you're almost managing to bring through those youngsters to such an impressive standard. So you can look at a Mystics lineup and go, wow, you know, the average age of that attacking lineup is incredible. But I'm really intrigued about the background work for those players.
Yeah, I think the thing about New Zealand is one of the things that holds netball in such high regard. First of all, is the accessibility to the sport. It's a sport that is not expensive. We have a committed coaching program through the schools. The school competition is fiercely competitive, and that is where the understanding of the game, the talent appears from those competitive games, and then it's really hard to then transition the girls into the pro environment that we have. But the amount of leadership from the older players to bring the young ones through has also been impressive. So in teams, you've got to have that right chemistry going on. Otherwise, if you don't have the leaders that are willing to give, and if you don't have the coaches that know the game, and if you don't have the environment that supports performance, you're always going to be struggling. So I think those three elements are key to our overall strategy for New Zealand netball. One of the things that Knowles brings out that has kind of transitioned through all the coaches and the franchises is about allowing players to have their own style and have their own way that they play. She's very big on you be you as a person and as a player. And in New Zealand, I guess we're not so rigid in terms of you've got to play like this and you can only make this team if you play the style. The New Zealand style has always been about playing the space, about playing an attacking game with speed and fast turning and manipulating the space and creating options when there aren't any options. And our defensive style, again, is all about deception, promoting an option, working together in a unit, promoting for your mate. So all those themes have gone down to the coaches, and I think that's a tribute to Nolene with the way she works with the franchise coaches. There's a lot of time that we have spent in the clubs. I've been on the bench for clubs, and Knowles has been supporting the clubs behind the scenes. So the connection between the national program and the club program is really tight.
Nolene being on those benches, you've talked about that, and I think we've all seen Nolene in action in terms of her tactical knowledge, the way she brought that Kiwi team to the forefront, the culture she created to go on and win the World Cup was just, something to be in awe of. But I think what has been impressive is, as you said, now that's spreading across the league. You've seen her on the benches, you've seen her talking to the coaches and working with those different players. Like, what an experience for all of those guys. And I think once you have built that culture, everybody wants to buy in, which is so incredible. Looking forward and looking ahead now, there has been rumours about a little series against England. Is that something that's still in the pipeline, or is now with COVID off the table?
Yeah, that would be great. I mean, one thing that we do admire is your playing group that you have in England and your numbers. We were over in England before the World Cup for the Northern Quad Series, and we had, young girls coming in to train with us. And the last time I was in England with netball was in the Birmingham World Cup, which was ages ago. But to see the growth in your game and the amount of talented young players that you've got coming through is just as impressive as New Zealand. I think that you have a really strong playing group at the moment that are really experienced, and I think you have the infrastructure around you that there are opportunities for girls. If they want to go after it, it's all there for you. So I think that's really impressive. I would love us to play England and have international games against you at any opportunity.
Debbie, just because we've got Lisa Alexander coming up, and I'm always up for winding up the Australians, would you say that this period of time with the Super Shot going on as well in Suncorp, that this has really allowed New Zealand to push ahead of Australia? Would you be confident that over the next 12 months that the Silver Ferns will be on top of the tree, there for the taking for Australia and everyone else looking up?
So the contest between us and Australia, it's such a huge history. It's one we respect deeply. We love the way they play. We love the Australian battler, that mentality that we come up against all the time. Have we got the upper hand? I think in this business, things can change overnight so fast. If you think you've got the upper hand, then you should be looking behind your back more so. You can't ever settle.
It's been lovely having you on. Before we let you go, if no one's seen it, there's a great thing. Still Ferns have been producing these wonderful videos talking about pure, and I know that's a word that means so much, that yourself and Nolene have brought in. Forgive me for not remembering what each of the letters stands for. I'm sure you'll tell me in just a moment. But there's a beautiful moment in the video that Nolene's done where she talks about, actually, when you beat England, you knew that was it. You would go on and win the World Cup. Your reflection, your time on that year ago, what did it mean to you to be on that bench, to be part of that, and the pride that you look back on it now?
Oh, first of all, massive pride for my family and everyone I represent. And I think the pure, the way that it was brought about was through reflective learning. It wasn't us sitting down with a facilitator and having a workshop and coming up with a campaign plan. It was very organic, which is very much what Knowles is about. It was about looking at the language that we used and backing it up with the actions that we proved in trainings. So the pure is the play to win, which is why we're there. The U is the united. We had to be ready. And the R is the ruthless, without being heartless, but being ruthless in every detail. And then the E was the first thing that Knowles came into the playing group and shifted the history of the Commonwealth Games and said, I want an explosive game style. And so as an athlete, you go, wow, what's an explosive game style? How can I explore my limits with that? And that got the group completely focused on performance. So it was wonderful to be part of that. England was a massive hurdle for us. We loved Liverpool. Oh, what a cool city that is. But England were playing at their best. They were amazing. We had such huge respect for the way they played, how they prepared, how battle hardened they had become. And we knew that it was kind of like the game, that once we could confirm our confidence in our game style against England, we would get over that hurdle of the next game. So I think England have to take credit for our win as well, because if they hadn't pushed us so hard, made us think about different things, you know, your attackers, your shooters they were just sublime, and your defence just worked all day. And Serena Guthrie, what a legend, what an amazing player she is, and a person.
Flattery will get you everywhere, but before I said we were going to let you go, but I won't. You've just flattered England, which is great, and I'm taking from that England are going to win the next World Cup, so that's fine. The next thing that I'm going to ask you though is Central Pulse, Mainland Tactics, the final. Who wins it?
Tactics.
Tamsin, you agree?
I think
she did that just to wake us all up.
Look, you can't back down from the Pulse either. But I do think that the Tactics have got the momentum going at the moment.
The momentum is key. So we're going to jog on now and speak to Lisa Alexander. But Deb Fuller, thank you so much for coming on the show.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for having me.
Well, we advertised her, so we better bring her on. I say advertised. That sounds like we're looking for a new job for Lisa Alexander. We're not, although do you want one? You can come and work with us, Lisa.
Love to come and work with both of you. Such a professional team.
Well, we know that's not true. You're the pro, because I know you're keeping an eye on everything going on in Australia for us. But how have you found it, just sitting back, watching the league and thinking, yeah, can I pick, but oh no, don't need to, and just, I guess, enjoying it?
I'm absolutely delighted to see actually getting the competition started this year. It's It's been a long road, and we really didn't know whether we would be able to pull it off, of course. And I know that, disappointingly in England, you weren't able to keep the Super League going. But particularly for women's sport in Australia, it's been critically important for our grassroots community netballers that are, getting out there and playing, particularly in our northern states. They've had to just stop here in Victoria. It's been vital for people's just connection and having some sort of enjoyment in their life when, we've been in this lockdown period. It's been a strange time.
We haven't had a chat since we had Nat Medhurst on the Super Shot. We hadn't seen it in action. It's now been in action. I'm still very much on it doesn't bother me that much. It works, it doesn't work. Where are you at now? You've actually seen it live in action over a few rounds. Thoughts on it?
Probably the jury's still out with me. I need to see a few more games to decide myself that it actually is going to work the way it was intended. As a traditionalist, definitely I'm against it because of a number of things, but globally we don't have it. And I think in some respects that's a little bit disrespectful of the rest of the world in some respects. And it just, I don't know whether it actually provides that real excitement. For me, I get excitement out of watching games. And I was thinking about it the other week that the Firebirds and New South Wales final back in 2015, we didn't have a Super Shot then, and it was an amazing contest. The other thing is I do think, it's interesting. We do have turn and shoot shooters who have that mentality, which is what I've heard as part of the argument to bring this Super Shot in. And, I'm not convinced on that either.
What have you made of this talk around Caitlin Bassett, your captain, and how she's performed under it? Was it an answer to the critics in the last game when she came back? And has she struggled with it, do you think?
Yeah, she has. There's no other way to say it. I know she struggles because, she is a human being with a heart and a mind, and she wants to please all her fans and she wants to do well for her team. It's been very frustrating for her, but to get her opportunity like she did and to show the sort of shooter that she is, she's still a world-class shooter. She can actually shoot from the Super Shot area if that was part of the tactics of the team and they wanted to do that. And I will put my hand up. We actually probably did take her off in, the bushfire game when we had the Super Shot. But Seabass is, she feels it. Of course, as captain of the Australian Diamonds in the two, the World Championship team and the Commonwealth Games team that we lost by 1 goal, there's a great burden on her around that, as there is on all of us. And I think, I've said to her a number of times, I think she can keep on playing for as long as she likes. It's up to her that she's got to overcome those mental challenges of continuing to push and to be better and to evolve her game. We had the same thing happen to us, tactically against the Kiwis a number of years ago, where they'd seemed to have got on top of Seabass's hold under the post. So we put some extra, tricks and movements into her game, particularly Margie Caldo. And, she did shoot further away from the post. So, I'm very confident she can evolve her game and still have a great impact on international netball as well as super netball.
I find it all really interesting. I've as a coach and as a player, I remember when Seabass burst onto the scene, she was the next superstar and everyone got really excited. And then over the years, she's been consistently a world-class shooter. And I think that becomes very easy to forget.
This is like eavesdropping on one of your Twitter conversations, both of you. Thankfully, that you do them in public, so we do get to read them all. Well, we're going to have a TV version of your Twitter conversation now and have a look at some of the social. Now, I know both of you are very good at your predictions, but are you as good as the young Louis and his predictions? Have a look at this. Ash has been putting up before, here, I see you both smirking, before both of the games. This is Louis' netball tips. This is Louis correctly predicting then which way one of the games is going to go. Are you going to take, Lisa, your tips off Louis from here on in?
Oh, look, I actually definitely take notice of Louis' tips, and I've just loved that whole concept of how Ash has been involved in with Louis the matches. It's been hilarious, and I just think that's just a great, beautiful sideline to what's going on off the court. And for many of our mums in netball this year, Clay, April's son, Clay, being there at the sideline when she's making a debut for the Giants the other day. Yeah, it's just wonderful.
Yeah, seeing April back again, phenomenal. Just the talent that you would have for this Australia team still back on court. Talking of talent, great to see next social media message, because it means that Leila Guscoth is back on court.
Yes.
Well, it's fantastic for the England squad, isn't it, to see Leila back after, sadly, injuring herself at the World Cup and having so much time off. So it's really big news for the Roses side that we've got another player playing out in the Suncorp and getting that exposure.
Yeah, look, it was a major step, major withdrawal for them last year in that World Cup to not have Leila available for that team. And I think, New Zealand probably were feeling quite fortunate about that at the time. But, her defence has just grown from strength to strength. I saw her make her debut. Was against New Zealand in international netball, and you just knew she was going to take all before her. She's very determined in the way that she goes about her netball, and obviously very strategic. And, to see what she did off the court with going back to England and assisting as a doctor, it was a wonderful thing, and just goes to show the level of character that we have in our international athletes for netball. And, it makes me really proud.
Yeah, we can't heap enough praise on Leila. We're constantly flag bearing for Leila Guscoth and what she'll do back on court too. Nogglebox is a phenomenon that's taken off over here, which is the netball version of Gogglebox. They're watching all your games, been watching the ANZ too, and just talking about that game for the Giants, that win finally over Fever. Are things settling back into a pattern now, do you think, Lisa, with the league? Do you think we'll get those sort of matchups that you would have expected and maybe some results levelling out?
Yeah, I think I probably had Giants. I think I did put that out there on social media. I had Giants in my top 4 at the start of the season. Adelaide have definitely surprised me. Not surprising in the way that, I think, Tanya's a fantastic coach and she's got some great players there, to choose from. But to have them, I guess, working together so quickly as that combination together, they're going to trouble some teams this year, definitely.
Before we let you go, Lisa, and I've loved having your insight, and I'd love to see much more of you on TV. We deserve to see more of Lisa Alexander talking tactics. Has there been too much of a delay in announcing who's going to replace you? Is it harming Australia at the moment, or do you think, well, I'm not going to give you a get out, is it at the moment? Should they have announced the new coach?
Oh, look, I think it was going to take some time any case, to be perfectly honest. My contract is, I've been completely transparent about it. And in fact, had to speak about it the other day just to make sure people understood what actually happened was, my contract would not be renewed. And so I was told that, and it was to go until the end of the year. And, again, as I've said, would have been more than happy to continue in the role, but our Netball Australia board have thought differently. So it was going to take time, and it should take time, actually, to pick the right person for this position. I think it needs time and effort and thorough, detailed analysis about, who is going to make that best person for the position. But I've heard just very quietly in the background that it should be at the end of August, but we will just wait.
No, we won't. Who is it?
I have no idea. I really don't. There's lots of names coming up everywhere, and Simone McGuinness's name is mentioned a lot. And, you know, we've also got Stacey Marinkovic and, you know, Tanya Obst maybe in the mix. I don't know. I think Bryony Akel has definitely said that she won't be putting her hand up. And, you know, you've got Kylie Byrne, who's already our Australian 21 and under coach. So I think and, you know, disappointingly, the 21s has been put off for next year. But and there could be people like Vicky Wilson may be interested, or a Jane Woodlands-Thompson, or, you know, you never know, Norma Plummer might put her hand up again. I don't know. It will be fascinating, and I, like everyone else, I'm now a rusted-on old netball fan. We will wait with bated breath.
Can't believe you just dropped Norma Plummer in at the end there. There would be a thing. There would be a thing. Lisa, it's been lovely talking to you.
You don't know.
Still wants the final word, does Lisa Alexander. I'll let you have it in just a moment. Lisa, it's been wonderful having you on. Thank you to everyone for watching at home on Off the Court. Lisa, we'll wave you goodbye.
Bye-bye. Lovely to see you all.
You too. Lisa Alexander, former Australian coach, still talks a good game. You can follow her on social media, and I do enjoy those chats with you and her, Tamsin. It can get a bit fiery sometimes, which we like to see too. We'll get her back on Off the Court in the not too distant future. Have a lovely week, Tamsin.
Thank you very much. You too. Hopefully it will cool down a little bit.
Yeah, we got through the whole of the show not mentioning that your water's been cut off and you haven't had a shower for about 4 weeks. But she doesn't look any different to us. Tamsin, thank you. Thank you for watching. Use the hashtag Off the Court and be part of the conversation. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Sky Sports. Feel it all.